Welcome to Cycling Fashion Week, the world's only podcast about cycling aesthetics, style, clothes, etc. We have a very special guest this week. Not only the brand Givelo out of Colombia, but also Tony. Tony is the special guest I'm referring to. Welcome back, Tony.
Thank you. I feel a little insulted. I'm a special guest on my own podcast, but obviously we haven't recorded in a while, especially with at least the two of us. We've been busy. Warren's had a little more free time, so he's been able to jump on with some of our guest hosts. But now we're back, kind of 66% of the original cast, trying to do something, trying to bring back a little bit of excitement. It's tough to get on and record these things and find the time, especially when we're an anti-profit podcast. We're hobbyists. We're not interested in making this a career, but at the same time, even though I haven't been recording or even riding that much, I'm still out and about, and I still see things I wish to complain about. I'm still on the internet. I'm still seeing many cycling related items, culture that I would like to opine on. So it sort of lingers in my head, maybe floats to a group chat shortly, but it's nice to get back on the podcast and maybe talk a little bit about some of the stuff I've seen or experienced recently. We won't go into a full-fledged deep dive because we have a nice long interview with Givelo, who I'm just going to say we got the kit after the interview, and it's like nothing I've ever felt. And we're not as I've been known to pump up people maybe a little too much that I get excited about, but we liked Givelo and their stuff, but didn't know too much about them. Obviously a smaller brand, obviously coming out of South America, which is different from, most of the European and Australian brands we've interviewed. And, we've talked a lot about textiles and the fabric and the manufacturing they have there and that culture in Colombia. And I'm just shocked. Like the stuff is just the quality of feel is just incredible. And I don't know if it's because I haven't had anything more recently from like MAP or anyone, and they're sort of following that trend too in fabric selection. But did you not notice that? Just the stretch of
did,
it,
yeah.
Something about it, the way it's all kind of seamless.
Yeah, I've been riding it for about a month now, and I've been very pleasantly surprised. But yeah, as soon as I took it out of the packaging, they're nice enough to give us each 2 jerseys and a pair of bibs, and I think it's specifically the classic short sleeve waffle jersey. Just I have a few quote unquote waffle jerseys, but this one was, I don't know, it felt really nice, and even though it feels a little thicker out of the bag, it actually breathes really well. I've worn it on some quite humid days that we've had in Toronto this summer for riding. And yeah, I've been really happy with it. The bibs are already probably up there in top 3 bibs that I reach for long rides. They're super comfortable. The straps are super soft, but yeah, I definitely noticed the fabrics right away. And you'll hear it in the interview when we're talking with Steven from Givelo, that he talks a bit about the different fabrics. They make it all in Colombia, so their factory's down the street. So I don't know, that just makes it easier for them to go check stuff out or whatever. But yeah, I've been really happy with the kit so far. We didn't have it when we were doing the interview, but I've been wearing it both so I could talk about it when we sat down to record this, but I've also just been wearing it because it feels great. I want to reach for it pretty much anytime I hop on the bike.
And we're going too much into quality and fit and stuff, which is always been a bit antithetical to our view of just doesn't look good, even if it's made of paper. So we're changing our tides as we sort of have been pulled deeper into the industry. But I do want to say I think it also looks good, and we talked about it a little bit, right? They keep a small range, but they have a sort of a broad spectrum from. We got a little more of the simple stuff in terms of the design, but they have a broad spectrum, a little more sort of exciting and the kind of colors, which I think is really popping off. I think the neutrals are dying out a little bit. And then, they also still have that kind of neutral sort of simple. So the quality is good. I haven't ridden it yet, as I can only really seem to get around to, maybe a ride a week. I'm going away for a couple weekends, which means the gravel bike will be out, and hopefully then I can throw some more kit on and give it a try. Yeah, so it's great. So that interview is coming up. I'm very curious as to get some feedback on the quality, because we sort of jumped into it, not in our normal process, just went straight
Mm-hmm.
in, no research. Well, I don't really research ever,
We
but
did some
less.
research, but
Yeah,
it it's a long story. But basically, Tony and I had a miscommunication. He thought we were recording. I didn't. I thought we were just having a pre-interview, which we sometimes have done in the past. Anyway, just it made sense to just record on the spot. So we did even less research than we normally might. But Steve was great. He talked to us for quite a while and gave lots of really great answers. And we're happy to hear any feedback, because we sort of just literally jumped right into an interview with him.
yeah. See how it goes when we're even less prepared than we normally are. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
better that way, right? Less Larry King, more The View. Maybe they don't seem like they're that prepared. But I do want to talk about something quickly while we kind of have this intro going before we,
Sure.
feed into the interview, and then we'll do our canal. So we won't have too much beyond the interview here. But I have an important question, and I think it's been circulating: is cycling dead?
Ooh.
I mean, we've noticed it. The run club thing is blown up. We've noticed in our sort of little circle, a lot of people, they were cycling obsessed. They're going to Mallorca, they're going to Girona, they're going to Arizona. They're spending thousands on kits, aero bikes every, new year, gravel this. Now, all of a sudden, you just don't see that much riding out of them, whether it be on Strava or posting on social media or joining the group ride. And all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, it's all running. It's just running, running, running. And then I think what the real telltale sign for me was on a ride I did recently, partly with Warren. Again, I don't have as much time as a father. And so they continued on at a little short term. And I noticed that sort of proliferation of who we've talked about, the panormal person, the map person, the sort of younger, very focused on the style of it all, right? Sort of what comes out of this podcast. I didn't see any. I still saw a lot of cyclists, but it was an older generation, more 50s, 60s, back to wearing sort of club kit, or the sort of stuff you get at Mac, or off of Altitude. Well, I guess Altitude Sports sells some of the big brands, but that kind of Perla Zoom is, more just sort of thinking of function. This is good. A lot of sort of club kit or Ride to Conquer Cancer kit. Like, it seemed,
Mm-hmm.
just in a quick eye test, it seems like that was gone. Like, if a couple of years ago, you go out on the sort of route we were taking, very popular route in the West End of Toronto, and it's like, it's like you're in an influencer Instagram account, right? It's just map and panorama and
Mm-hmm.
you know standard bikes and Cannondales flowing down, and now it's people with quad lock mounted phones and visor helmets and bike mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
So is it gone? Is it dead?
I don't know if it's
Dead,
dead, but
dead
it does
in
feel like it's
dead in the sense
dying.
of,
Maybe.
yeah, dead in the sense of what it was. Like, cycling, it's not a
Yeah.
sport that's so niche it's going to go away completely, but in that thing where it just seemed like it was all over the place and everyone was obsessed, and it was, if you weren't getting into
Yeah.
cycling, you were being left behind of the sort of millennial Gen Z hipsterism, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's,
Yeah.
so that's what I
No,
mean by
I've
dead.
noticed. I've no, I know, because we've already been talking about this. But yeah, I think I almost see it as if it's dying and it's just like fading, and it does seem like a lot of those people are transitioning to running for I don't whatever reason, I don't know. And yeah, I mean, I like a contextual example. There's a local there was a he's moved, but there's a local Toronto cyclist who kind of was one of the preeminent Panoramal fanboys. Very strong cyclist, got super into it, put tons and tons of kilometers in a year, like 15,000 K a year. And I just happened to notice on Strava, he's not riding that much. And like, I'm sort of having an off year by my like kilometer volume standards by a little bit. And like, I've ridden like 1,500K this year more than him. And I think it's just, I don't know, are they getting burnt out? Because I think that often happens with some cyclists where they get really into it really fast and then just burn themselves out. Because like, if you're riding 15,000 kilometers a year, like that, eventually you might burn out. That's a lot. You're going to get tired. And so, yeah, I've noticed
I,
that too.
I'm
And it's not
I'm
just
going to
this one
criticize these
person.
people. I don't think it's burnout. Like I think like, and this is such a pretentious thing to say. And I've been riding for 20 years, and although I've had dips, I've never really like given it up. It it's just about the trend hunters, right?
Mhm.
I think there used to be sort of a better, the hype beast term, but like this kind of trend hunting where they have no real passion for anything. Like it's like they say they fell in love with cycling and it was this great thing,
Mhm.
but it was just because it gave them an outlet that was popular to be part of the scene, to be part of everything. And as it faded, they weren't like, I love cycling so much, I don't care if every cool brand falls apart and no coffee shops let us in. I'm going to ride on a decathlon Tribon bike and a club kit that my dad gave me from 1984 because just being on the bike is the most wonderful feeling and experience and stuff. No, like they're not saying like, oh, I'm tired, I did this. They're saying running came up. It did the same sort of path a little bit, right? Again, it's not that running that you think of, the kind of fun 5K. It's all about style and the coffee stop. It's all the kind of same mimicking, and they've just
Mm.
jumped onto that trend. And it's not that I like think running's bad or anything like that. It's not the specific to running. It just shows like a lack of like true passion, because they all say that, because now you see the stuff, the same people that said 2-3 years ago, I love cycling, it's so important, it was everything, that's all they did. Now they're posting the same thing saying, you know what, I really love running. Oh, what are the odds that you really love running at the time that running has become its most popular for our demographic? And so in 2 years, we've talked about this with the missing host Alex on other things, like what's next, right? 2 years ago, I really love CrossFit. I really love rowing. I really love, like, it's just like another thing's going to
Climbing.
come up 2 or 3 years down the line that you're going to realize as everyone's doing it, you also really love it. It's, and it's definitely genuine to yourself. It's not because you feel the need to, the validation of the group, and you don't, right? If everyone that is running, you can't go and ride your bike because
Mhm.
then you're not part of it. And I think that's like, that's just sad, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. It's especially because I'm the same way in that, yeah, I just love cycling so much that I have no interest in sort of, I'm trying to ride as much as I can at the moment. And yeah, I mean, I just, the sort of just hopping to something else, I don't really get it. I don't really have any interest in that. Not to say you can't have other interests. Like I do occasionally go for a run, but that's usually more, it's either specific to prepare for like cross season or just I need a really efficient workout. But I'm not going to these group runs. And side note, if people complain about cycling groups on the road being like a menace, run groups are a fucking menace on the sidewalk.
Oh, on
In
the
Toronto, at least.
forget the sidewalk, the bike path. I take
Oh, that too.
the Martin Goodman Trail to work, which is, for those not in Toronto, is the main lake shore parallel bike path that basically takes you across the city.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's for right, that's for runners, for walkers, for kids, scooters, all sorts of stuff, and they just take up too wide on both sides. And it's not like a road that you can sort of continue wider or so whatever. Like it's, the sides of it are either a fence to the water or a big patch of grass or something, so you get stuck, and they don't seem to care at all. Like at least
Mm-hmm.
on the road with the cyclists, like to defend us a little bit, like it's usually another lane and a car can kind of wait for a spot and get through. Like this, you're essentially stuck behind these runners. And
Yeah.
and some of them, like the some of them are 30 deep. It's
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're pretty frustrating for the way they take up space. But
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're just feeling what everyone else feels about the cyclists, especially the
Yeah.
cars, right? So that's what someone will
Though I will
respond and
say,
say.
I haven't been on many group rides, and I know this is. I've heard of stories of it happening, of like a group of cyclists kind of swarming a car on the road just by like because they're not organized. And I only say that because I got swarmed by a running group walking down Dundas Street West, which is a major street in Toronto in the Junction neighborhood. And I just basically I was just walking, doing some errands, and I literally got surrounded for like 5-10 seconds as they all kind of swarmed past me. And it was just, as a cyclist, I was kind of like, I understood what was happening pretty quickly. But for people who wouldn't, they'd probably be like, what the fuck's going on? And why am I being swarmed? But like, there's no reason why they couldn't have all gone single file into the road quickly to go around people. And, it could just be much like with some cyclists, but some people are dicks. So it could have just been a poorly organized run group. But I was like, come on, what are you doing?
I think cyclists or runners, sorry, are even more obsessed with those like Strava numbers because
Hmm.
obviously we know like people want to get, they want to get a high average or whatever. But like, I think in a lot of situations as you ride and, there's stoplights and stuff, people aren't as concerned, but it's like, if they're planning on running a 430 kilometer for 5K, like they're going to run a 430 kilometer. And if anything gets in their
Hmm.
way to slow down their like pace that they've set, that they either want for themselves to prove they can do it, or they want to show off, which I assume is also very, popular, making sure you have a very acceptable sort of 5K pace. I think that they're really
Hmm.
serious about it. So they're not going to be too concerned with other people if they're going for a pace time, which they
Hmm.
can see their watch is set and tells them what pace they're running at. They'll do anything to follow that, even more than a cyclist will to get his average speed up or their power up or whatever. Like, I think it's even more important to them to be like, this 5K has to be at this pace per K
Hmm.
no matter what. So that
I
always
also,
that those type of people always result. Even the cyclists who do that too, are like, I need to get my power output or whatever. Those people always result in jerks because they won't modify themselves in the understanding that they're actually in a public realm.
yeah, I also get the impression that with the runners that, man, if somebody's training for a half marathon, you're going to hear about it. You know what I mean? Like it's that old vegan joke. How do you know someone's a vegan? They tell you. I feel the same way. It's like, oh, I'm doing this because I'm like training for a half marathon or blah blah blah. Whereas with cycling, I feel like even if you are training for like races or race season, you don't just tell non-cyclists about that, you know. Whereas with runners, I'm not into running. I know about several people who are training for a half marathon later this year just because they've told me, not because I wanted to know, but they've volunteered that information.
Also, what the fuck is a half marathon? That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. To take something that is like, okay, you've got the marathon, it's been set. I don't know if it was truly set by the Greeks, if that was the number, but okay, they set the modern marathon. And then to cut in half, but like still use the term marathon as if you're sort of doing it. Like, I don't go play men's league hockey and be like, I'm going to play half a hockey game. And then someone's like, wow, that's pretty good. Like half a hockey game. No, you go play a
Mm,
hockey, right? Like I'm okay that someone wants to run 13 miles, but like they can't call it, like they've got to come up with something else because it insinuates that you're part of the marathon, but you're not. You've cut
mhm,
it in half. You're not doing a marathon, and it needs to be rebranded because it's ridiculous to sort of say you're accomplishing something and using that term marathon, which like evokes the idea of something very like challenging and difficult, but you're doing the half version of it. A half marathon has
mhm.
like, this is not a running podcast, but it has to stop. Someone needs to come up with a new term because you can't say half marathon. It's so dumb. Like, I'm trying to think of like other examples where if you were to call like a feat that you were accomplishing but doing only half of it would be like
Well,
just
if you
just
rode half the
something.
Tour de France, you wouldn't be like, I'm doing half the tour.
Yeah,
Like, not a
you'd
perfect
be
analogy
and
by
you'd be
any
a
means, but
failure. You'd be a failure because you wouldn't
yeah.
have finished, right? Or
Mhm.
I don't know if you went to one of those like eating a giant steak competitions in the South, right? 26-ounce T-bone, and then someone's like, "Oh, how
Mhm.
far did you get?" Well, I ate half of it. They wouldn't be like, "Oh, wow, great, you ate half of a T-bone.
Yeah.
Put your name up on the wall." They'd be like, "Well, you didn't finish it. You didn't do the whole
Mhm.
thing. That was a half-ass effort." So the half marathons, the cycling running week. This is just running fashion week. This is uh, half marathon's done. So for the
Yeah.
runners that are listening, stop calling it a half marathon. Come up with something new.
All right. On that note, before we talk too much about running, why don't we get to the interview with Stephen from Givelo or Givelo? We talk about how to pronounce it in the interview, but uh, Kip Brand out of Colombia. I think this is a good one. It's one of our longer interviews, but we think you'll enjoy it. And yeah, here you go.
Coming up next on Cycling Fashion Week, we've got an interview. It's obviously a very special interview because I'm back after months and months away. We have Stephen Dennis, the creative director of the brand Givelo. I feel like I'm mispronounced because it has a kind of a it's a Colombian brand, so there's probably some sort of Spanish pronunciation that's much better that French Alex could do, but unfortunately he's not here. So, Stephen, welcome to the podcast.
pleasure to be here. Thanks
Yeah,
for
that's
having me.
great.
Thanks for
Part of the
joining
reason I'm
us.
pulled back is your brand, something I noticed a long time ago. Obviously, through social media is the way a lot of this stuff becomes disseminated. Like the sort of work, thought it was really nice. I think I kind of noticed it as we were tapering off some of our recordings, so we didn't reach out. But then obviously we got in contact and we were able to set this up. And Warren was talking about maybe doing this solo, which I'm sure he would have been great at. But knowing this is something that I wanted to talk about, wanted to promote, I thought I'd jump in, find some time in my very busy schedule that doesn't really include riding a bike anymore. So, I guess I could have taken this time to ride my bike, but talking is just as good, talking about cycling. So I guess we'll sort of hit it off with what we usually ask, because we can be redundant here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about the brand, your background in cycling, how you got into cycling, and sort of why you decided to start a cycling apparel company.
Sure. Okay. I mean, yeah, we're from Medellin, so we say Givelo, but
Ah,
honestly, Givelo, it all works. The name actually comes from the surnames of the three founders. I'm not one of the founders. There's four owners. We're all in it together, but it's actually two letters from each of the surname, which is an interesting little bit of data that we
Mm-hmm.
don't usually say actually. So we kicked everything off in Givelo 2017 here in Medellin. Like everything has always been from here. It's unlike a lot of the cities that we actually sell our clothes in outside of Colombia. And I always try and explain this to people that here it's a manufacturing city. So when the guys got together and they said, "Oh, great, let's start a company," it's a lot more common than you think here in Medellin. So here there's a huge entrepreneurial vibe. Like
hmm.
everybody has something going on, and it's awesome. It's always like starting a business. It's always sharing a business. It's always diving into new projects aside from their usual work. So that's, let's say, one of the pillars in the mix of why it all kicked off. The other one is the city is known for its textile, even though we don't use much textile from Colombia. Here, there's a lot of manufacturing knowledge and fabrication. So everything we produce is actually made in Colombia, bar a couple of accessories, which is tricky to make here. And then there's the cycling bit. Like we're full of cyclists, full of, cycling's in the blood here. There's cycling everywhere. Everybody, if you're not playing football, you're cycling. It's the number two sport after football or soccer, depending where you're from. And that's probably why it all started. For me personally, I started with Givelo about a year and a half after they actually founded the company, and I had grown up in England playing rugby my whole life, just being a big fan of sport, whatever sport, just loved it. Played a lot of rugby at school, and then outside of school, took it way too seriously, just wanted to do some sport. And when I came to live in Colombia and I got to know the guys from Givelo, I had kind of already gotten into cycling because if you live in Medellin, you know about cycling in some, well, you know someone at least that cycles to a level where it's their life. And I was just really intrigued by it. So I didn't actually cycle that much. Like road cycling, everything where I grew up in England wasn't a big thing. And here, I've absolutely loved it. I mean, we're spoiled. We ride in some high mountains and you see some amazing scenery,
Hmm.
but it's new for me and I just can't get enough of it, to be honest. To give you an idea, Medellin is at 1,500 meters base,
Hmm.
and then our office is it's just above that.
Hmm.
Most of us live a little bit higher up. I live just outside of the city, which 2,100 meters. So that's where I set off, and I can still start climbing a good 300 to 500 meters more
Hmm.
before getting beyond 10 kilometers. Like it's all mountains and it's good weather all year apart from a few months of more rain.
Hmm.
So more than anything, it's the fact that we could be riding early Jan and it's baking hot and it's good weather. Everything is built around the idea of being able to do a lot of cycling. Making a good brand is something else, and making a good brand with a good business attached to it is something else, which we've learned along the way, which we've loved. That's part of it. That's like our lives now. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess everything seemed to point towards doing cycling in some sort of business fashion, even though it wasn't obvious at the time when you're in the mix and when the guys were founding the company. Now you tell the story in hindsight. It's like, well, yeah, obviously, it's cycling 2 kilometers down the road. That's available. You know what I mean? That's a real
Mm-hmm.
thing. At any point in time, it's still a real thing to just pick up some material and try something new, which is pretty unique to
Yeah,
be honest.
let's talk about, you said a cycling business, and that sort of run well. We've seen sort of, there was the COVID boom. People were looking at ways to get outside. They weren't, allowed to sort of congregate inside, and cycling went crazy. Partly there was, limited distribution, so bikes were sort of unavailable. Everyone wanted it, and it seemed, from us being involved the way we are, a lot of companies sort of thought that that was now a norm and a base, and so they ordered, the quantities. They hired at this level, as if once COVID ended, which I think everyone knew was going to happen eventually in some fashion, that now cycling would be this top popular sport, and it seems to have tapered off. Maybe not to sort of pre-pandemic levels, but it's definitely not where it was when every single person was doing anything to find a bike. And from our sort of perception, looking at, there's reports on sort of what Rafa's lost in terms of sales, and sort of their yearly profit. I'm not that into the business stuff, but how hard was it, and what do you feel you guys were able to do to sort of make sure you're running a good business, knowing that there's been a big change in the market, as well as, cycling is typically a premium sport where you need to sort of produce premium products to sort of grab the attention of the market, because that's what the competitors are doing.
Sure, certainly we felt it probably differently to others. We had the advantage of being still very small at the time. So the boom, we didn't, let's say, make the most of it, because at the time, maybe we couldn't even literally grow as quickly as we would have wanted. But also the downfall of the peak of that demand, when we were selling a lot, D2C, we didn't feel like the huge drop all of a sudden, because we weren't loaded up on inventory, because we're
Mm.
also not a huge company. So it was handy being one of the small guys with the fluctuations. But certainly we've gone. Let's see, we sell more outside of Colombia now than we do inside of Colombia, and it's pushed us to be a very international company. So what we've seen is that change has happened in different countries at different times. So the countries that had manufacturing felt it first, because the manufacturers feel it as soon as the distributors don't order, and then the distributors filter down to the stores, and the stores filter down to the people that are actually riding and purchasing the stuff. And what we saw was like this huge disconnection between brands, where they wanted to rotate and go through new collections, and then this ton of stock behind them, with all these organizations and businesses that are built on making the most of, buying in a lot of quantities, and making the most of that top peak demand coming out of COVID. And then all of a sudden it drops off, and we're actually right next to the factory. So we kind
Mm-hmm.
of knew it was coming. In fact, the guy he's the general manager of Givelo and stuff, he said, look, this is not going to last. What do we need to set up to get ready for the change? And I actually feel that we did make the most of the peak of the demand. But ironically, that meant that we didn't get hurt as much as others with the
Right.
fallout when the bottom fell out of like everything. And ironically, you guys over in Canada felt it differently to the States as well, just because of the amount that was being able to be imported into the country at the time. People that had big problems and got it all blocked off from being imported never had the stock, so then had to get rid of it, with the brands leapfrogging all that inventory, talking about brand new stuff, trying to just get rid of the back end, and it was huge. We're pretty lucky like that. We're also lucky in terms of an inventory pre final product as well, because we import all of our fabrics, and because we make it, it's got a little bit more control. So we're not planning as sort of orders to these big factories 8-9 months ahead. We kind of were like, right, there's no one buying nowhere near as much as they were 6 months ago. Let's just not make that. We just don't have to make as much, which is not great to say, oh, we're not growing, but it's really handy not to get stuck with a bunch of inventory.
Right. So you mentioned how your factory is right there. I Of all the brands we've interviewed, I can't remember anyone ever mentioning how their factory is just like basically down the road. So aside from avoiding COVID overstock issues, whatever, I'm more curious about how that affects or plays into like your product development design process, because I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, that would allow you to test new materials, maybe see if designs look weird, that kind of thing. Is that true, or what are the main, I guess, benefits of being so close to where you manufacture the kit?
The benefits are exactly what you just said. There is a flexibility behind it that's really, really great. At the same time, like anything, it's got its upsides and its downsides. I would say the upsides are having that flexibility, are being in control of what happens and what's going on. You're also in control when it goes wrong because it's your problem. Sometimes when you're disconnected and you're ordering something from a very, very good factory, like a lot of our competitors in Europe, they're fantastic companies that are built and specialized in being fantastic manufacturers. When you're trying to be a manufacturer and at the same time other things, so we try not to be experts in logistics. We set that aside because it just adds a complication. It adds a layer where if you get it right, it's like a sweet spot. If you get it wrong, it's just a lot more issues that you have to deal with. But
Mm-hmm.
100%, it's been the way that we've wanted to go because of our message as well. At the end of the day, you have the choice to make cycling clothing pretty much any way you want right now, and we don't make much with Colombian fabrics, but we are from here, and we do create jobs here, and we do want to talk about sometimes about where we're from and the cycling culture here. And around the end of 2019, going into 2020, we were producing some stuff in China that had some fantastic fabrication capabilities and created some crazy jazz. I loved it because I was on the product side, and I'd receive it. The second sample on it was perfect because they're great at it. But then I don't want to say that we make stuff in China. I want to say that we make stuff in Colombia, where we're from, and it's different. And I know when you do get it right, and it is just a matter of time within every collection that you hit a sweet spot, it's really great. It also lets us, more than anything, and it's probably the biggest benefit goes to the end consumer, which is a jersey with Japanese, Italian fabrics, which right now is not even anything special, which is
Mm-hmm.
something that's awesome about the cycling industry. You do get some really great products within every brand. That jersey isn't 180, 190, 200, 220 now. I see short sleeve jersey made with these same fabrics, made by the same factories amongst 3 or 4 different brands. We can offer that same jersey at 170 or 175 US. And it's the same or better in fabrics because there is no middle man factory in between. There isn't that massive difference between what you want to do and and to be honest, we were going down a road, actually doing all the fabrication outside of Colombia that looked exactly like the big brands that we like and we
Mm-hmm.
compete against now. We were going to look exactly the same. So 5 years down the road, we'd just be another one. We'd just be another one of them.
So
Right.
And we don't want
yeah,
that.
so I mean that's interesting. You mentioned the cost, and this is sort of one of the reasons I wanted to jump on and talk. I've sort of had a hiatus from talking to brands. Is I've noticed there's a lot of comments about where the prices of kit has gone, and It's always been an expensive thing, obviously with inexpensive versions, but sort of if you're trying to look in the premium, but it seems to have jumped to sort of astronomical levels. And you're seeing, people posting videos, or, you're looking through websites. Oh, what do I want to get? Oh, wow, 500 for bibs, 350 for a jersey. And I guess the question I was hoping to have, someone who's in the industry is, are these prices justified with, the fabrics, manufacturing, shipping, all that stuff that's used? Or is it just companies sort of realize this is a sport with, fairly well-to-do people, at least in sort of North America and Europe, who are interested in it, and they'll, especially the ones who have really established names and are, really kind of what people, the aspirational brands that, especially new cyclists, are they just saying we can charge $350 for a jersey because someone's going to pay $350, even if, they could still make a profit, or could, when it was a $200 jersey 3 years ago, they haven't made a change. Like, is it justified in that? Or is it just, I don't want to say greed, but is it just sort of understanding the market that they can charge that?
Tony, I don't know how deep we have to go and to understand this one, because funnily enough, I was wrestling with this one recently, and no one needs to buy premium cycling clothing. Like, if you want to ride
What?
your bike, you can naked, right? Great, let's go that basic. Building on from there to where the prices are now, I'm in complete disagreement, because although there's brands that have branding power that can charge it, I mean, they've shown it, and I admire that, and they've built fantastic brands that let them do that. There is a point where it will just completely go inverse, and our vision is not gonna line up the stars, in a perfect manner, but it's certainly going to make us make the decisions to add a little bit more value instead of add a little bit more price. And that debate is very subjective, but it's becoming a little bit more obvious every single collection that's launched from different brands. And I think you don't want to fall behind, because at the same time, we're animals, and our instinct is like, wow, that's really cheap. That must be
Mm-hmm.
crap. And that's a really that's also a very interesting thing to, like, why is that perceived still like that? Whilst we're all in disagreement with these prizes, what are we doing? But I definitely think that the future of this is unsustainable, just rising prices. So
Mm-hmm.
we're in an industry, and you ask, like, okay, we're in an industry where it's the opposite from something like a Moore's law. I forgot what it's called. There is a theory, right? It's handmade. It's made by people, that people will always be paid more as the years go on. So while you're increasing the payment towards anyone who is involved in the manufacturing process, that product will have to keep increasing in price. Like, until you get to a stage where suddenly you don't need the people, and there's like these huge advances in manufacturing to reap the benefits of these new technologies, like in cars, like in technology, like in chips. Like, it's just such a different business, because at the end of the day, you need somebody to put this thing together. You need somebody to be at the mill making the fabric right up until you put on the last logo and package it. It's people. And you want to keep people paid well, and you want to keep saying that you're a brand and you're a company, that you're going to keep that motion going. In part, that's why we make everything that we can in Colombia. It's inevitable that it will keep going up.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening is the perception is expensive, instead of the perception being the product is just as good as for what I'm paying. I would definitely pay that. So, or we start putting our pants up as an industry, and all the brands start making these amazing stuff to just kind of like equal out, or it's just going to feel every time more expensive. People are going to get kind of bored with it. I do feel like there's business decisions, especially in the cycling industry, with a lot of big investments happening with brands that
Mm-hmm.
are not aligned with what cycling used to be, especially in clothing. Bikes is a different deal, but I certainly think that it's unsustainable, and I don't see everybody suddenly making every single product in every single collection that good that it's worth the dollar sign next to it. So it's like a value perception, and the brand power that a lot of people have now at the top range and the companies that are most well known, it's just a matter of time unless they make even better product, which is hard because they're making great stuff.
Are you talking about the Map Hoka collab? Is that what's wrong? No, I'm kidding.
I,
Uh,
I think that like a
um,
good, it's interesting because a good analogy is something we've spoken a lot on the podcast and that we all enjoy, or watches. And it's kind of that sort of thing where, I mean, watches have sort of a certain lore, through a lot of different reasons, and brands like Rolex that have such a statement and their sort of minimum prices and difficult to get. And there are sort of reasons beyond the brand sometimes why these are a little more expensive or whatever. But what's interesting, I think, just kind of what you're saying, and in terms of that sort of animal instinct of like, if it's less expensive than what I consider premium, all of a sudden it must be some, crap product. Then I guess what it takes is and maybe it's really hard if you are kind of selling a good product at a more reasonable price, is that sort of groundswell. Like I'm wearing a Seiko 5 right now, which is a sub $400 watch, but it has its own world in the watch world that people really know it's good, even watch enthusiasts, Rolex, Tudor, Omega people, they'll be like, oh yeah, Seiko 5, that's great. That's a great $400 automatic watch. And so I guess kind of my point is it's a really great functional watch. And I think a lot of brands, and like, I've looked at the prices on your website, and like you sort of mentioned, part of it's the way you manufacture, but part of it's sort of your ethos towards trying to keep things a little less expensive. It's like, how do you make sure brands like yourself, without obviously the help of us, which will do a great job with, if people, now that everyone's going to be excited to jump back on the podcast and everything, let it kind of be known like,
Of
hey,
course.
there's this is the sake, I'm not saying you're the Seiko 5, but it's okay. You can get a really good quality product at these price points, and the reason you're seeing the map, I'm going to, we're not dancing around. We call it here, right? The maps and the panoramas and stuff who have gone astronomical and in very quick time. Like I understand your discussion about, it's going to cost more as labor goes up and stuff. But I mean, this is, the difference between a Panorama $200 jersey and their $400 jersey has been like 3 years. Like there's only so fast that the labor rates are going to climb. Or so
mhm.
it's like, that's obviously something else that they're sort of involving themselves in. But it is interesting how they, like now, because they are kind of the most aspirational brand, I would say, at least amongst sort of Toronto, North American cyclists, when you just with the eye test, it does start to become, you look at a jersey, go 170. Well, if Panormal's selling it for 400 and this one's 170, like it must not be good. It must be some Chinese made crummy, even though you said Chinese made can be very good, but the sort of perception, it must be, it'll fall apart easy. It's not good. Like I better spend the 400 because that's where I'm getting my real value worth, because they've done something different. So I guess in my long-winded way, how do we make sure that people understand that there are a lot of great products, similar to the really big heavy hitter brands, that's going to get you all the quality you want, but you don't have to, mortgage your house. Well, none of us own a house, but give up your RRSP. That's a Canadian thing.
Yeah, no, I get you, and I think that's the whole point. I can say to you that it's for a manufacturer, it's always going to increase, but the perception and the difference in what's going on and the speed that it's happening, there's something else in play, right? It's a different type of decision. We we've been called the new kids on the block and all this kind of like jargon, and it's not on purpose. We're not we're not running in like, cool, so what's the price here, and then we're just going to just undercut it just because we can. And obviously that's a pricing strategy, and Map isn't the only one. And honestly, I think that they've done a better job in innovation in a lot of products than a lot of other big players. When I look at their competition in some products and in some collections, and their great branding, how do we get people to know that there's, let's say, a Givelo out there that's got that price point lower and the quality is the same or even better in some cases? I would say, how do we say, look, try our best bib is never crosses the $300 mark. It's on the border, but we're talking it's like a French fabric that comes from a development that was made by Lululemon that we adapted for cycling is not purchased with the silicone grip on a clean cut edge. And then we can actually make it. I mean, that exact product, the way that we do it, is not possible as under a $300 bib. Not possible under a $300 bib, maybe in another manufacturing structure. But everybody has their business. We sat down and we said, if we're going to carry on doing this business, what are our principles? And principles is important because a principle is something that doesn't sound great all the time, and it sounds great sometimes. It's something that is core to what you want to do, and you're up for sacrificing something to make it work. And that whole ethos of this is getting out of hand because the value is being lost and the price is now the only thing that people understand, runs against what is easy sometimes to explain as high quality. Because if I just put the highest price on, there's a lot of people who will just assume that it's the best. And to your point, there isn't a magic sauce. I think we just have to know that we're doing the things that are true to Givelo and continue doing them and grow and try and make the right decisions at the right times, and literally try and be at that level constantly until it pays off. You know, your the 30-year overnight success is still a real thing, even though the only thing you see is like the 2-year overnight success, which kind of like shrouds a lot of the hard work that I feel that people do in any business, because we're just kind of like there for a quick fix or a shortcut or something in those, you know, whatever it is that means for your company.
Yeah, I mean, when you mentioned 2017 as a start, you know, I thought, you know, I kind of checked myself. I thought, I didn't hear about it till much later. You know, it didn't sort of come up in my purview until a couple of years ago. So I thought it was maybe a bit of a newer brand. So, you know, like you said, you've had that kind of overnight success, you know, of years and years. Do you think that people expect too much out of their cycling clothing, their cycling kit? Like I've noticed a lot, you know, there's a lot, obviously part of this goes back to the cost conversation, but I've noticed I've seen a lot of reels and TikToks and stuff about people sort of pointing out their premium cycling kit that's fraying or there's a stitch or something, you know, and I don't know if that is a, you know, defect or problem manufacturing, but then I kind of also made me think about how like we really wear these things, and it sort of doesn't seem like it because the movement is more contained. But if you really think about it, and now no one's wearing, you know, the same kit every ride. Like some people are riding 300-400 kilometers a week for, I guess if you're in a warm place like yourself, 12 months a year, or even a cold place like us, you're doing, you know, 6-7 months, and you're putting so much into this thing and so much sort of movement and repetition that when you have this stuff and you paid so much money for, do you think that it's just like there's just sort of people are underestimating the strain that's put on a cycling kit because it's just that maybe doesn't seem the same way as, you know, a pair of running shoes or something, but there, you know, it's really being strained? Or is there some issues in manufacturing that you are seeing these defects coming in, you know, what people believe is too quick for what they paid for it?
I think anything that's made like cycling clothing is made is going to have its moments of a mistake or something like that. Minimizing that is a well-run operation. It doesn't mean anything for someone that's just spent 220 US on a jersey and their pocket fell off. That's ridiculous. That shouldn't be the case. I think when you're asking like, are they expecting too much? Well, let's expect that it's well put together, that it feels great and it fits well. And now we're expecting, as cycling has gone into the fashion realm, like this whole other situation, right? It represents something a lot more. And maybe defining that is where people just kind of like, this doesn't make any sense, especially for what they're paying and stuff like that. And then you talk to someone, so yeah, we're from Colombia and we have a lot of poverty here, and we support a youth team here. You give them a jersey made from Givelo with Italian, French, Japanese fabrics, they're going to be like, this is amazing. I wouldn't have ever been able to purchase this at 20 years old. And they use it every single day. Now, if that rider says to me, it doesn't feel good, then there's just no point in why you're charging that in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It has to feel great. And we have to design a bib that's going to feel great as well in your winter months, and they actually pick it out of their wardrobe in front of absolutely nobody, but wearing it on the roller. That means a lot to us. I think people do expect a lot. I don't think that's a bad thing. One of the things that I personally really like about the cycling industry is that our customers, they tend to get it when you offer something really great. It's not like you have to churn it out and educating what it means to have a really good product. It's it's so like on edge of everybody knowing what the latest stuff is, and people in the cycling industry are intense, and that's awesome. And cycling is an intense sport where you take these clothing items to different like levels compared to just going for a jog down the street. But that means that when you get something right, when you do something really good, it's really appreciated,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll hear about it if it's not. And funnily enough, I've got into Reddit, right? And I'll explain why I'm saying this.
I mean, I'm saying TikTok
As
and
in you,
Instagram because I have been into Reddit, and I thought I'd give up on the, I could only you can only read so much negativity.
oh yeah, it's intense, and I'm not a TikTok user. I'm not a fan. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But I openly have posted in groups for cycling fashion, saying who I am. And literally, we're about to launch a collection on the 15th, and it has these logos that change color with the sunlight. It's really neat little detail. I love it. Obviously, I added it to the product, and it adds zero functionality, and I absolutely love it because it adds no cost. And if you're gonna keep competing at those price points, you need to differentiate somehow. And I posted a video of the logo changing, and I literally was expecting exactly what Reddit is, and I asked people, was it worth it? And yeah, I mean, it's an unbelievable amount of negativity, and I was curious why, because every time that I speak to someone that's purchased it and they don't know that it changes color, and they step outside and their logo goes pink, and it was like this really light gray. They absolutely love it, and and they've already purchased it maybe, but it's that. It's that. I thought it was a great example, right? There is no person that's left a negative comment on there that would ever purchase it because of the logo
Mm-hmm.
change. But at the end of the day, they're not purchasing it because that jersey makes their riding better and their performance. And cycling comes from a performance, and it's gone back into a performance realm, like in a seriously high level. But all the recreational stuff is like expecting something from your clothing that's not about going absolutely full tilt in the mountains here in Medellin. And you see that when there's very, very few brands that are very well known for their collection and their branding having a world tour team, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't really happen. It's a completely different world. So I feel like you have to create products for both worlds, and we have to create products built from and for cyclists primarily. Like I said, if this young guy says to me, "This is shit. I'm sorry, I can't wear it," even though you gifted it me, I would be super sad, and I would be like, "Right, let's close up shop, lock the door. We're not going back
Mm-hmm.
because we can't even get the basics right to compete against Paz." And let's not even include Q36 because I think they're doing a great job in innovation. You got to bring something else to the table. And to your question, it's like, okay, what are people expecting? No, I'm sorry, you can't go on Reddit and ask people what they want. It's just not going to work. You've got to go back inwards, and you've got to say, right, why are we doing this? Because at the end of the day, this is like not changing the development of our society. It's exactly the opposite, and it's exactly why we love to do it. Cycling is kind of like, well, we're human, and that's why we do it, and the sensation of it is exactly why we love it. Givelo is a supporting like a guide to that.
Mm-hmm.
When people expect their lives to change and be a better cyclist, maybe they need to just train more, but we'd love them to train and develop and feel fantastic. And that's why our message is you've got to feel comfortable outside your comfort zone, because we want to push people to go way beyond that sensation, get that perspective that is completely new for them in a physiological way, in a mental way, in everything way. We're in the GVL. I mean, hopefully it's more of a supporting act that we can play to all that change in people's lives, instead of really playing on what people expect from something that's a little bit confusing in the cycling industry at the moment.
I brief aside, I could go off for like 10 minutes complaining about the cycling fashion subreddit, because I've been on there. I've like posted about our podcast. Anyway, those people don't know what they want. They just want what Map tells them they want.
But they don't. Sorry, Warren. They don't even like this.
Started,
it's like cyclists, at least the ones that like say they're in fashion, are never happy, right? Because there's as many sort of posts and comments about the boring beige cycling. Oh, what's this? And then when our good friends at Attacker or someone comes out with something, or maybe maybe you're changing color, logo, or whatever, something kind of interesting, at least from like a design perspective. I'm completely going away from technical, just purely like a design or whatever, right? Our friends at Attacker do some great stuff. I know we're here to promote you, but we always got there's lots of great brands out there. It's a bit of a golden age, and that's hated on, and it's like, well, what do you guys want? So it's I find like it's just this kind of like miserable nature, and then there's always this sort of like battle between like the sort of the beige people trying to battle theirs, and then you've got the people who think who think cycling is for fun and that you can wear whatever you want instead of following very strict arbitrary rules, which is ridiculous. And so it's a tough they're a tough crowd.
They are, they are a tough crowd. But that actually leads into what I was going to ask, which is, you were sort of just touching on how Givelo is the idea is like making you comfortable outside your comfort zone. And you've talked about how your factory's close by and sort of some manufacturing, and you mentioned principles. So I'm curious to understand sort of the company's or the brand's design ethos, principles, whatever you want to call them. Like where does that come from? Because I understand the sort of from a technical standpoint, the idea of feeling comfortable outside your comfort zone. But I look through the kind of stuff you have, and I see a range. So I'm just curious to learn more about the ethos behind Givelo and what guides your thinking in the stuff you're putting out there beyond just like manufacturing. Like you mentioned the changing color logo, which for the record I think sounds pretty cool. But
that's definitely a Warren.
That's what
Warren would like that. That's a Warren thing.
Yeah,
sending you a few things. And one of the bits has that logo change, so hopefully that
awesome.
one's in your size, Warren. Like where does it come from? Like where do our principles come from? Where do we try
because it's you talked about starting the brand and stuff. It's I guess just the thinking behind like your approach. Really, anything like you don't have to give me like a
sure
4 direct commandments or whatever. I'm just curious, like the approach that you take with the kit, and it kind of, to Tony's point, is like, does it have to change to try to stand out in such a crowded market at the moment with so many, like, as Tony said, we're kind of spoiled with the options out there. So I'm just curious, like your approach to design and
sure
creating the kit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I can from my personal point of view, because let's say I'm in charge of creating it. We've gone through a lot of change recently, and I'd love to speak in exactly a year and see how this is different, because we're going through growing pains now to be able to reach and create like this level where we'll sustain and keep creating these great products. And Givelo has found, especially when they've created something a little bit different, something with fabrics that were not usually found in the cycling industry, something that was just kind of like a little bit more out there, and it could be just a fabric, not necessarily a branding kind of situation, concept. Although people tend to like the way that we communicate our collections, they've worked better than the basic stuff. And we are now concentrating on that. And it takes a long time actually to switch it over. And it's always surprising to me how long that takes. Where does this come from? How do we kind of go about it? First of all, we say product is queen.
Mm-hmm.
The queen tends to really be the one in charge in any situation, and
Mm-hmm.
product is what we make. Product has to be good. Like I can deliver something to Canada in 48 hours from Colombia, but if the product sucks, no go. If it falls apart, no go. If the price, no matter what it is, if it's no good, it's a no go. So product is queen. That's primary, like in our company,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously there's a lot of different parts of the company. But the way we go about actually attacking it is that we split up the year and try to be that international company offering a pyramid of products that may be priced slightly differently or slightly different weather, because we do, when we sell in Australia, Chile, in Canada, it's completely different no matter what day of the year it is. So that's really important. You have to understand kind of like your main objective of that
Mm-hmm.
collection, and that's why we split it up in what we call Givelo worlds. So there is a world where people love a Lamborghini, and there's a world where people love a vintage Aston Martin, and we believe that they can coexist under the same brand if they run like a core like vein through both of them in terms of the aesthetic, but when you get down to the details, there is things that are appreciated by different types of cyclists. So our collections are based around a concept that is very, very like to the heart of the cyclist and trying to send that message. That also creates kind of like the philosophy of how we make decisions. So, okay, well, does this jersey have a contrast zipper? Well, not if it's modern classic, because modern classic is like the James Bond kind of collection. And that guy is smooth, he's cool, and it's a temporal in colors and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's super important in terms of just kind of like a day-to-day thing, making decisions. I think mostly you have to get really down to the basics. It is you have to look good, you have to feel good,
Mm-hmm.
and it has to perform
Mm-hmm.
on the bike. It has to perform at the level that you want it to perform, but also your most nitpicky and fantastic cyclist customer should also say, I felt great once I passed that 200-kilometer mark.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes doesn't happen. And that's what we're going to work towards. And if we had it all sorted now, I don't know, I'd be retired. I wouldn't be talking to you guys. I'd love it. I wouldn't be sitting
Well,
in an office. I'd
Mm-hmm.
be
yeah,
having a
you got. I
great
mean,
time.
you got to make sure it looks
Um,
good for
yeah.
the photo through the window of people sitting at the cafe. I don't know. Is that popular amongst your circle? Like that's the like premier. Put it on Strava after the ride. Is the group will be sitting inside. Someone will go out and take a photo through the window. It's like it's so typical. It's so unoriginal.
At least in North
It just,
America.
yeah, I don't know if it's
we,
so
we,
annoying. I can't stand it.
it's not at the same level. It's not at the same level. Here, it's a little bit more raw, the situation, because the demographics are very different, and it's actually a sport that costs a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to be able to kind of like understand that from where we are, but they're still the same. Obviously, there's your group, and they're the cool kids, and they got to wear the great stuff, and they probably are some of the worst cyclists. And what happens over here is that the amateur level is ridiculously high. So I'm awful, to be honest. I'm a terrible cyclist. Like I'm probably fit. I could probably like ride okay in a social ride and everything, but the amateur level here is really good,
Mm-hmm.
and that means you have to have pretty good clothing just to even get on it. And it's also like a more of a price war here. So I feel like if you're born here, uh, out of the fire, it's pretty handy for when we go outside. And it's always shocked me actually the reasons why people spend their money on the clothing and how different it can be. And I appreciate all of the reasons, and I'm very thankful that people actually spend their money on our brand, because at the end of the day, we're building clothing, a clothing brand all the way over here from Medellin with a message that we want to send. And I can't get on the phone and speak to any of them, and they still decide to spend $200 on our website, and that's amazing. And $200 here is is a serious spend on a brand. So I guess we're grateful, but it's just not on the same level. Maybe we're lucky. We're kind of like separated from that. And funnily enough, you want them to want your clothing because they buy a lot of clothing, right? I'm just not sure that would be the reason why we do it.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely. It's interesting, and I love that you guys are from Colombia, just because we have been so North American, Euro, Australia focused. I'm not sure if we've interviewed anyone from nothing but those three continents. I don't think South America or African or Asian brands. Oh no, I don't think any Asian brands. Anyway, so we're it's interesting to sort of see and get that kind of play, right? What we see, what sort of dominates, especially sort of our feed and what we as a podcast have sort of talked about. I want to kind of jump off. We've been talking a lot about technical stuff, business, and I want to talk about the important things, which is what do I have to do to get a brand? I'm not saying it's your brand, but maybe you can give some advice to start making early 2000 cut jerseys with the short sleeves because I got good biceps that are a little bit loose,
Yeah,
and a little bit long. And I just like there's something about me lately. I don't know if it's like that thing like once a trend hits, you always want to rebel. It's like, skinny jeans were popular and then everyone went crazy baggy. And I just read an article in Le Monde that skinny jeans are coming back in Paris. And so it's like I need to cycle through, but I would just love a modern iteration of a Mark Cavendish on HTC High Road, like that cut of jersey. It's a little loose and just high up.
with the
It
yellow
doesn't
and
matter the
white.
color. I'm just saying that cut, like, especially for someone like me
Yeah,
who does do a little bit of weights. Like, I'm not saying I got great biceps, but they're pretty good and some like decent tries. And so it's like the long sleeve, it does okay. But when it kind of cuts right in the middle of the bicep there, the Jan Ulrich, like he was a big dude. Like I'm just saying, is there any chance that that might come back? It's probably not performance enough
Please
based.
don't.
Warren doesn't want it. He's a thin guy. Big dudes
No.
like me I want that. I want to sort of show that off. Like, could that be a sort of like a special collection? People do retro all the way back to
yeah.
like a wool, but do retro to like 2004. Can we get that? Is there any chance? Who can I talk to?
Well, look, now you've said it. Now you've said it. That's it.
It's the next trend.
Okay, let's hang up. I'll start. I'll start on it right away. Do you know what? I honestly think that on a real, well, my real opinion is that you got to get the right collaboration.
Mm.
Like our brand just can't do it. We can't say that we're bringing back something from the 2000s because we didn't exist. We would love to collaborate with somebody that, whether it's a niche brand, whether it's something different, that we can bring something like that back. I'd love to do that, because I think there's always a space for doing something different, and I applaud those that do something different, get it wrong, get it right, and they get it right. It's awesome. I think you need to partner up and get it right with all the way that you communicate it.
I
That
need you need a
probably
you need a
requires you to team up with someone that has that essentially.
yeah. You need a Givelo Giordana
Yeah, like
collabo.
yeah. No, or just like someone like way off the sports side, just pick them up like from clothing, like just something of way more retro, but like a Kappa. I love that collab that they did. It's that kind of
Yeah.
idea I think that you have to do to get it done right,
Hmm.
because you can really look
Yeah,
bad
it's true.
if you get it wrong.
Do you
Yeah,
do you do you
and
have collaborations?
and it might not even sell.
Yeah, you just sell to me. Make one. You make one for me. I know I don't know a lot about
I've
manufacturing, but
got a nice
I
jersey that
know
I cut the
yeah, cut the
sleeves.
sleeves off and just sort of get your manufacturer to stitch it a little bit shorter. Do you have any collaborations you've thought about, talked about, that could come through the way a lot of brands have, done that, whether it's something way out of cycling, like Kappa, or something kind of in the world, like how Map did the Hoka. I know that's running, but I think you guys also do some running gear as well. Like, do you have any collaborations or dream collaborations you like to work with that we can put out we can manifest in this podcast, or you want to keep it close to the vest?
That we can manifest. Yeah, I'd love to do a collab with Umbro. I think I grew up with an Umbro English football jersey.
Mm.
even though I didn't play that much football, but it was like iconic for like just being Umbro, if you know what I mean. It wasn't any of the other big brands, and it was really cool. I'd love to do that. Obviously, you've got the guys, the Oakleys. I think they're just amazing. Um, all that kind of thing. But if you want to go a little bit differently, I'd go with an
Think
Umbro.
about how baggy those jerseys
Here
were.
in Colombia, the fashion scene is yeah. Like everything here is oversized. We've got like this reggaeton music vibe going on in the city, and there's a lot of fashion brands that are really killing it. And we do a collab with our neighbors for sure here on a world stage. I know you got to pull something out of the woodwork
Mm-hmm.
and do something that neither of the two brands could do on their own. Which I feel that sometimes the collabs they're really cool, but they're not necessarily stuff that only came about because they got together. They're just kind of like a cool version of
Yeah, but
one or the
that's
other.
fun too. So okay, Givelo, Umbro,
Yeah.
we're gonna get it. We got to get it happening. We'll make it work. You know,
Somebody
from
from
Umbro
Umbro's
is
listening.
listening. They're just, or someone who knows someone who knows
Mhm.
someone.
Yeah, I'm
I mean, it's
sure.
amazing though. Like, you know, I don't want to say the reach of this podcast. It's not in the scale, but it's like, it's always, we talk about someone and we get a message or someone's like, yeah, I know that person. And you're like, oh, weird.
The diversity of our audience breadth is actually surprising.
Considering this isn't that good of a podcast.
Just people all over the place.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You'll see a spike over here in
Yeah.
Latin America all of a sudden.
hope so.
A whole new range.
Yeah,
of
that would be
listeners.
great. All right. So we usually, unless Warren has some more questions. Okay.
Just one more. Yeah. When we were first talking over Instagram and the email before we set this up, you alluded to some exciting new collections coming up for Givelo. Is that what you alluded to with the changing logo? Which, as somebody who just bought a pair of like oil slick shoes, that definitely sounds up my alley. But like, what kind of what's next for Givelo? Obviously, we're going to tell people to go follow you on Instagram, check out the website, that sort of thing. But like, what is there? I mean, by the time this podcast comes out, it may be available at TBD. But yeah, what's kind of coming up for Givelo?
Yeah, we've got 15th of July. We're launching a collection that's always kind of like the most fun.
Mm-hmm.
It always has included these color changing logos, PVC patch, Japanese nylon knit, really cool stuff that hopefully what you'll see is packaged up in a really nice slick product. We've taken a step back, so hopefully what people will be looking for, those core items, which is like the high level Givelo stuff, but in your core colors, they'll always be able to find them. That's a big change, although it sounds simple. Sometimes that's always missing.
Yeah.
So you'll see something launched mid July, then again early September. Just bibs and jerseys that you'll be surprised from the price point. Really, how great I think they are.
Okay.
Like stuff that you just think, well, this is the kind of thing I just want to pull on every day. Not necessarily for the photo through the cafe window, but literally like the stuff that will feel fantastic. And just we'll be maintaining that. Absolutely. A few developments on the way with just new fabrics from different places. Korea's coming out with a lot of stuff and things like that. Sadly, that won't be available until next year. But from today, 6 months on, there'll be 3 collections that all run some cool stuff. Definitely in every collection, there's maybe something that they've never tried. We've got a graphene jersey coming out in October. Might be a little bit cold now where you guys are, but it's a fabric that has intertwined graphene fibers, and it's just cool. Like it really works. It like doesn't feel like anything different as soon as you put it on. But while your body temperature goes up, you just realize that you're still feeling good. That you're not getting that like sticky, heavy feeling. But I mean, that's see it to believe it, wear it to tell us how you got on, kind of situation.
Great. So what we usually do is we end the interviews with a rapid fire. So quick answer. They can also go into long answers. Like we don't know. You know, we say it's a rapid fire to kind of make like we have some sort of structure to these things, but you know, it sparks conversation. I'm actually super interested in this one because usually, again, like, we're sort of Australia's not the northern hemisphere, but that kind of world. So interesting to see what some of the culture in terms of around cycling and these sort of things we see as typical in our world is down in Colombia. But anyways, I'll start off some of the most important ones: white or black shoes, or other, because other has become more popular. Other? What's other? What other?
Yeah, maybe oil slick like Warren. It depends how you pull it off. I always feel like people make the mistake of shoes depending on their bike. So if your bike is black, like mine has always been, other. Whether it's, gray, I'm a fan of gray,
Okay.
or the weird colors.
Yeah, I guess, and then it's the same. Usually we have that white or black sock conversation, but again, I feel like it's expanded. The dominance of white shoe, white socks seems to be fading, which is crazy because that was one of the like top rules for so long, and I'm seeing sort of less and less. And Quack Panormal came out with that shoe, and it was like pink. Anyways, yeah, white or
Map.
Pink
black
one, yeah.
Map.
or other socks, pattern, color.
Do you match your socks to your shoes?
I'm a fan of white socks, but with text or some sort of detail on them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, not boring.
Yeah.
All right. Carbon, titanium, or scandium bike.
I'd have to go with
Nice.
steel.
Good answer.
Nice. Yes. This is a metal bikes
Yeah,
podcast, so we
almost
like that
only
answer.
own metal bikes. I think Warren had a carbon bike and it broke from
6 months.
So we're kind of anti-carbon. Although I feel like with all that climbing, you really like. I don't, some of these steel bikes can be really good, but I'm sure you always can save some weight, and you guys are climbing, a lot in Medellin that maybe that's more popular. But we love our metal bikes here. All right,
I'm going pretty slow, so steel bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you have? You want to reveal what
like,
you have? Do you have a steel bike?
No, I don't. I don't have a steel bike, but there's one here, and I'll give them a shout because Scarab is a
I've heard of them.
fantastic bike company here. They're neighbors, so that's my future bike.
Okay. Nice.
All right, this is kind of where I'm interested in the Colombian version of things a little bit. So, drink of choice at the cafe stop. Obviously, Colombia is super known for coffee, but versus kind of what we expect with a flat white or an espresso in Australia, North America, Europe. What's the coffee go-to at the cafe stop in Medellin? What's the drink of choice?
It's a filter. It's a filter. It's AeroPress, Chemex.
Okay.
Nice, lightweight coffee, Colombian coffee, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of very good coffee here, and I'm a big fan of coffee. And the only way to appreciate a really good coffee is through these.
Oh, that's gonna like blow the mind of every espresso loving wannabe Italian cyclist. That is the majority of people who listen to this podcast. The idea that you went high end with Chemex, AeroPress, right? That you didn't just say like a I'm trying to think of a brand that makes a basic filter coffee drip thing. I haven't, I'm an espresso guy, so, but that's interesting. What about food, pastry at the cafe stop? What's the go-to one there?
Oh, personal favorite is an almond croissant. That's a good one. It's got that sweetness in there. But recently, I'd have to go back to the pan au chocolat. I'm a chocolate fan, so probably tops.
I've been on an almond croissant journey because there's a place in Toronto called Cherry Bomb that I just think they're the best. Like, I know everyone's got an opinion what's the best. That to me is the best. So I've just been hitting up coffee shops, ordering the almond croissant to try and figure out, like, is there somewhere at least in Toronto, that is better than Cherry Bomb? And so far, I've probably had, since I sort of started this journey, like 14 different. I don't always know where they're made or whatever, because sometimes a coffee shop and get it in. Cherry Bomb is a bakery, but right now it's so if you're ever in Toronto and you want an almond croissant, Cherry Bomb on Ronsi's just phenomenal. There's something about their filling, something about their pastry. It's the best. And I'll let you know. I will call you directly if I find a better one. Yeah.
Please, please. No, that's what I really wanted to talk about the whole time. I mean, honestly, I'm a big fan of this. Coffee and pastry is the only reason I ride my bike
Mm-hmm.
to
Yep.
try it.
Steve, no,
Same.
No, joke.
Stephen, we're
But
the
no, to be
same. I
honest,
say when Warren
it,
plans a ride and if there's no coffee stop midway, or if it's a shorter one and there's no coffee stop after, I don't do it. Like tomorrow, we have a sort of a planned ride, and it might run a little later than me going to work. So I took a couple hours off in the morning of work to make sure I could go to the coffee stop.
I tell you the one that I've learned is this. I've got a pastry shop that I love going to. Really good. They make a lot of pastry very early, but I'm already riding. So you got to hit it when they're making their second batch.
Mm,
And that's the key. So I actually asked them, like, what
strategic.
time do you normally want to make that next almond croissant? And if they say to me, right, 10, then I need to know what kind of ride I'm doing, like 7 to 10, or am I doing like a big loop and I miss out, I can't miss out. So yeah, you got to hit that second batch because all the really good stuff that they make very, very early, you're actually riding at that time. So
That's a genius
yeah,
move. Yeah,
you got
Strategy.
to ask.
contact your local bakery, patisserie, coffee shop, whatever's getting it. Find out when they're cooking and plan your rides around the freshest pastry that you can get. I think that's the best advice we've received on this podcast of the whatever. What have we done? 50 episodes, Warren?
60
Yeah,
plus.
but I wasn't on some of them. So 50 episodes. And so that's the best advice we've had. All right, that's all I've got for rapid fire. Warren, you got any rapid fires that I forgot?
No, I think that one other one we usually ask is just like where's the best place you ridden your
Yeah, I
bike?
thought about that. That isn't. I want to say that isn't Medellin, isn't Colombia, because we know how phenomenal that is. The pedigree of the cyclists coming out
Sure.
of there. It sort of seems unfair for you to answer that because it's so well known as a top cycling place. So we want to see like outside of your home.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
No, sadly, I'm not. I haven't really gone much since I've lived here. My, big holidays. It's been with my wife. Haven't taken the bike even, just because of the hassle of the crossover flights. But sadly, I don't really have a good answer.
So
Definitely here.
what you're
But
really saying is that Colombia is so good for riding bikes, you don't need to travel elsewhere. That's what I
it
hear.
is it's shockingly good. I
Yeah.
have to admit, like the more I get to know new places, it's shockingly good. I tell you though that the most I've enjoyed is a bit of a hippie way of doing it. Like I have to say, like no computer and having to leave the house and get back to the house on the bike. Like not driving anywhere to start there and stuff like that. Like really doing it like that is probably to to take a twist on the question. That's probably the best way for me that I've enjoyed the bike.
Yeah.
And
Raw dogging it.
whatever, yeah, like whatever you're listening to, whatever you're doing, whoever you're going with, leave the house on the bike, and it's not about your computer. It's not about getting to somewhere. Just try and find that new place, but get back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm world famous for not using a computer. I talked about it a lot. I mean, or maybe not that much. Some people think I talk about it too much. Some people want to hear more about how I don't use a computer anymore. I'm actually interested because I do want to, because it's so good there, and we know that really at least the traveling meccas of cycling are Mallorca. I'm forgetting the other place in Spain that a lot of people go to, Girona.
Sure.
I want to know if you do make it out there, whether it's for a trip or something to do with business or whatever, and you get a ride. I want to know if you just come back and say Colombia, Medellin is like crushes that. Everyone's wasting their time and money going to Spain. Our good friend David Miller should move immediately, and everyone should come. Medellin should when digital nomads who want to train in the off season from Toronto or Montreal or somewhere in Canada, no longer should they go to Girona. They should now come to Medellin in the winter months. Or you don't want that, maybe. I don't know.
No, we see a lot of pros here in the off season, a lot, just because of the altitude. They got some big rides that they can do, all above 2,000 meters. So
Right.
they absolutely love it. I'd tell you that if you want to train, definitely here. But it's about riding your bike. I think if you go to Girona and Mallorca, you're also having a nice little holiday, aren't you? And it's nice to have a holiday here, but if you want to go and ride in the higher areas and stuff like that. It's all about going every single day, riding big loops and really training on it.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I'll have to say you can't do here very much is gravel. It's just that it's that mountainous that there's no like like
Right.
open road plains that are just off road
Yeah,
flat.
that's fine.
That they've got that loose dirt that just doesn't happen. It's like you're either on a mountain bike or you're on the road.
Right.
It's not that much, especially around here.
Yeah.
Near Bogota, the capital, there's a
Yeah.
little bit more.
Okay.
So that's what I would do if I went to Europe.
Interesting.
And enjoy the European cities and towns. Here, it's about getting up into nature and riding those roads, like just where you just see these mountains and stuff like that.
Well, that brings you to my final comment question. The only reason we do these interviews really is to, even though we don't go anywhere with it, set up connections worldwide for us to possibly go cycling where someone offers us, like, you know, it could be a place to stay that's very nice, but that's maybe a bit above and beyond. But certainly like a meetup, you know, a ride, just sort of a tour, you know, almost like a tour guide. We've sort of cultivated with almost everyone that we've interviewed has sort of offered that up. I'm putting you on the spot, but I also want honesty. If you just want to say no, we don't want to talk to you again. Is that on the table for Cycling Fashion Week in Medellin?
Yeah, of course. I love to invite people here. I think it's just different, isn't it? I think I'd set up a ride. We'd hire Scarab bikes, all of us, and we'd go and enjoy a steel frame. I'll show you the best almond croissant that you've had, but then we'll also just stop off a bit of pizza. I've also I do a lot of pottery in my spare time, so we'll have like just this really cool, nothing to do with the cafe window look, but it'll be good. It'll be a good ride for sure.
All right.
We never actually take anyone up on these, but
it's like we got to keep it sort of, because you never know. There might be like a boom where we find some time and we got to like take a trip somewhere and have that option.
It will also cost you half of the trip to New York.
That's true.
That could make it
possible. Definitely. We set up a couple of camps here for people, like teams that we do their custom kits for and stuff like that, because we do a lot of custom, which is not something we show that much actually online. And their camps are like what they would usually pay just to get over and do some riding in another place, but it includes 3 meals a day in all the hotels. It's that kind of situation. And you can hire like these amazing houses in the countryside with pools and whatnot, and that's like your base. And then everything's set up like just to give you an idea. There's a lot of people here that ride every single day with a motorbike that comes along with them, got a spare wheel, pump, and it just goes along with them. That's like a service here that's really, really common for almost all riders. It's just built around cycling. Like really, if you want to just cycle and eat really good food,
perfect. If we go anywhere, we'll come there. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah,
this was great.
Thanks a lot for.
I was say this was great, and then I was going to pass it to Warren, who's better at giving out the details of Instagram, websites, Reddit handles.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast, Stephen. So yeah, for our listeners, you can check out Givelo's kit, which I think we've sort of alluded to, but has a nice range of what I would call affordable to higher end stuff on there, which I very much appreciate. And you can see that at God, what's your Instagram? Sorry, it's the same. Yeah, and then Instagram at Givelo. I mean, people know how to use their phones; they can look it up. But it's with the spelling's in the thing, but Givelo. Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast. We enjoyed getting to hear more about the brand, and like Tony said, we've been fans of the designs for a while, and looking forward to actually trying out the kit. But I think I'd encourage our audience to go check it out. We've got some cool stuff on there.
No, thank you for having me. A pleasure. Enjoyed it.
Hey, what are you doing? I don't know, I'm just fucking tossing bikes in the river, bro.
All right, and now it is time for our signature segment, Into the Canal, which, as longtime viewers know, it is where we take things we don't like and throw them into the Lachine Canal of Montreal, or take things we do like and give them a chameleon in homage to the Chameleon Oud, the hardest climb in French Alex's world. And yeah, so let's just get right into it. I've got one that I've been trying to think about how to frame it, but I think I'm going to canal the entire cycling industry, but specifically the people designing bike frames, because I'm getting really tired of how the whole industry, this is specifically for road cycling, but even a little with like gravel, but just the constant pushing of like integrated everything, aero everything, all the frames need to be aero, drop seat stays, extended head tubes, blah blah blah, and just pushing that. And then it has like these average recreational cyclists like ourselves. We don't race, like I race cross, but not really. And it just they're out there convincing people that they need these, $8, $9, $10,000 bikes that are basically designed to be ridden in the world tour. And I know that's sort of how cycling has always been, but I just feel like every couple of months there's some new innovation that all the brands start pushing and adapting. Like the one piece stem and bar is so dumb. I know we've had that for a long time, but it's literally limiting your ability to customize the fit of your bike, which guarantee the majority of people out there are not riding a bike that fits them quite as well as it could. And I just don't understand. It's giving us less options, we've already talked a bit about hookless rims, but that's part of it. So yeah, I'm going to canal bike designers, I guess, out of the industry, because it's gotten too much. And I'm not saying we need to go back to, well, maybe I am. Every bike should be, double triangle design, external cabling, blah, blah, blah. It's just more like, it's just gone too far and I don't see any end to it. And I'm just tired of it. It's just not realistic. And people are out here riding like a Factor 02 VAM, on their coffee ride. And it's like,
yeah, but they're all selling it now to get into running. So they'll be, you can buy that on the secondhand market.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's true.
I was going to say, with all due respect to our good friend, David Miller, who now works for Factor, it is often Factors.
Wow, they are very nice bikes in the sort of carbon world that we don't dance in usually. Try and play with the steel, but yeah, I mean, I've actually noticed. I don't know if it's just maybe there's like a proliferation of them on the secondhand market, or it's just because my eye's catching them more because I just think it's one of the sort of best mass-produced design. But I've noticed a lot of people with CAD 10s, and they look like newer cyclists, so I assume it's sort of like bought on the secondhand market. And part of me thinks like, yeah, we should have just stopped at the CAD 10 / the like maybe like the Evo Super 6 or whatever, which is a very similar style, but like carbon and maybe a little bit more aggressive. But like that was it. Like we were done then. And I get that like there's a business and you got to kind of, keep selling. And certainly there's a lot of people who want to sort of push that, idea that they're saving a couple watts for their creator, their group ride or whatever. But like really from a cycling aesthetic standpoint and a functionality, you had a CAD 10 and I think you loved it. It was a little bit big because they sort of sold you, didn't know really what they should have sold you.
Yeah,
but
that was the shop, not the bike though.
Yeah, it really like it should just end like it's essentially perfect for a simple bike. And yeah, you find you make a carbon or you the Super 6 Evo, but like those two bikes, that was the end. Whenever that came out 6, 7 years ago, more time passes. That they should have stopped there. That was it. Yeah. That's the best bike. Just do different paint colors and wheel styles and whatever, handlebar drops or something. But that's the end of bikes. So it's too bad they kept going. But
well, it's even, our feelings on gravel cycling are pretty well known. The influence from big mountain bike, but now it's almost like gravel's getting influence from big road because, like, I just saw Allied, the US frame brand, who used to be made in the US, but now apparently they're making them somewhere in Asia. And I don't know, there's some hullabaloo about that, but they just put out like a gravel race frame that the frame is, I think the frame itself is like something like $10,000.
Nice.
That might even be US. Yeah. Anyway, but it's super aero. It's designed for gravel racing. So basically like for people in the Lifetime Grand Prix, because I think they have some riders in there, but you can't even fit, they don't they say don't use a tire that's smaller than like 42 because it's designed for massive mountain bike tires. Because I guess that's the big mountain bike influence anyway. But it's just like, why would you spend $10,000 on a frame that limits what you can do with it so much unless you are an actual competitive gravel racer? Like so it's true in all these different niches. I don't know. And you know, again, carbon also has a finite life. So does aluminum, but carbon especially is, you know, I was talking to our friends Velocolor who in Toronto, who not only run like painting business and make some great saddlebags, but they've verged into carbon repair. And Noah from there was telling me how they had like 3 BMCs brought into them within a week, and they had all failed. And to BMC's credit, those frames eventually got warranted, but they came in just for inspection and they'd all cracked. So it's just, you're going to buy it, you're going to have it a little while, and then you're going to have to buy another one. And I don't know.
But
nobody wants like a bike.
Warren, you're being too positive. The ultimate in luxury is being able to waste money, right? Like that's what, like, you know, we talk a lot about cycling and inclusivity and how people sort of want this sport to be inclusive, but it's not. It's for people who can buy a $10,000 frame and have it crack, and then buy another $10,000 frame and have a bunch of bikes around and just feel extremely wasteful, right? I mean, think about not even the bikes that crack. How many people you see with a new bike, you know, a year or two later, there's nothing wrong with their old bike. It just wasn't the newest bike. Yeah. And so it's the hallmark of this industry. Even the people we're talking about that I was sort of saying at the start, who aren't maybe part of the glitterati of the cycling, the older people, like I know some of them, I know a lot of these people, they still will spend. It's not just like, oh, it's the, you know, the young people keeping up with the Joneses. It's like everyone who gets into it. It's almost a common thread between the club jersey wearer and the you know, beige cycling wear is the ability to spend money on like bike related stuff. Like this, the club jersey guy doesn't understand why someone spent $500 on a bib, but they will be like, I saved 2 grams by spending $7,000 on these wheels. And they will be 40 pounds overweight and have an FTP of 7. And that 2 grams and that $7,000 was worth every penny.
Yeah. No, it's true. Anyway, yeah. I don't like it. Get a steel bike, a titanium bike, something like that. I don't know. I think what's so wrong with having the same bike for 5, 10 years, you know? It'll get one that fits you properly, and that's all you need.
Oh, I mean, that's why I'm an evangelist for my Marinoni, right? It's custom design, fits me super comfortably, especially because I have particular body proportions and some injuries that limit some range of motion. And then it's steel. I dented it. They cut out the top tube, put a new one in, repainted it. Not that expensive relative to buying a new bike. Looks as good as new.
It was like $700, wasn't it?
Yeah. I assume they can keep, and that was only because the paint was expensive. The actual repair of the steel was like $150 or something, but obviously I wanted it painted back. But then I assume I could continue to do that with if something else happens on its own merit. So yeah, I think a custom, like if any, you know, you're looking to spend money, whether it's Marinoni or whoever else, you get a custom size steel bike, unless you just happen to have the perfect sort of average body proportions that fits with a stock size. I say most people don't have that. And so you get that. You're probably paying a lot less than the premium bike. You're going to be super comfortable. It's going to last forever. It's not like these things are crap, right? You're not buying like some like, you know, 1980s Miele that weighs 32 pounds. Like they're still fairly light and nimble, and, you know, put your money into your wheels or whatever. So yeah, I'll always, you know, sort of proselytize custom steel bikes for, you know, comfort, durability, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. All right. What do you got?
This is tough because, I mean, he's so long off of the podcast, so much stuff I've seen that has bothered me. As I sort of,
I mean, we kind of spent the first 20 minutes of the episode.
Yeah, the running, could have been my Canal, could just be runners, but it's not going to be that. So I'm gonna dance in my head and sort of choose what I want. I guess, okay, my canal is going to be a bit of a question, and I think we've brought this up, but I guess the canal will be what we decide on between the two. So I've seen recently people in riding, again, actually I am here to criticize everyone's bike, so I don't want to kind of be one of these fake positive people, but riding an Alley Sport from 2007, 10-speed Tiagra, comfort fit, and then like full map kit, sweep protection helmet, S-Work shoes, right? Where literally the kit costs more than their whole bike. And so it's like, I want to be like, do you throw that in the canal? Do you say like, get a better bike, wear some kind of, inexpensive kit to start, work your way up? But then at the same time, if I see someone on an expensive bike, but they're doing flat pedals, they're doing a t-shirt, they're doing running shorts, is that also a canal? And am I being a hypocrite that I'm saying like, well, why is that? Why do you have the really nice bike, but you're in some Nike shorts and a t-shirt? Like, which one? And I guess the question is, what I'm hoping to do is just canal both and essentially tell people to like find a middle ground. Like, when you get your budget for your bike and cycling, include some kit and some shoes and some pedals in that. So it's like, you say like, I have $5,000 to spend on a bike. Don't buy a $5,000 bike. Buy a $3,500 bike and add that other $1,500 or $1,000 or whatever to your helmet, your glasses, your jersey, your shorts, your socks, your shoes, your pedals. And so you shouldn't be extreme on either end. Don't say, I got to look cool with the map. That's $1,000 there, but I got a $400 bike. I want to have the best bike. I've got a Cervelo S5, but I'm running some Brooks running shoes. What do we think here? Is it fair canal?
Yeah, I think so. Go moderate. Like I think I was mentioning to you, I saw somebody riding a titanium bike this past weekend with flat pedals and running shoes. And I was just kind of confused because, I agree. I think, when you're seeing somebody in an expensive kit on a cheap bike, maybe they like the kit is less of an outlay, to try out cycling. But you don't need to be buying high-end map kit to do that. Like when I first got into cycling, I did buy kit before I bought like a proper road bike. But I bought like entry-level Castelli stuff. I bought one pair of bibs and one jersey and some socks, and I think actually shoes. So I went like kit, shoes, and pedals, put them on my steel Kona commuter. It was a drop bar bike, but it was very heavy and not really designed for road. But it gave me enough of the experience with road cycling to just be like, okay, I want to spend some money on an actual road bike. So maybe that's what they're doing. But yeah, to your point, you do not need to be spending that much money on kit. You're better off, if you're trying it out, buy some cheaper kit, save the money for the bike itself, and vice versa. Yeah, you shouldn't be buying some crazy expensive Pinarello or whatever, and then not also put aside some money for some shoes and some kit. Because I guarantee you, whatever shop you bought that bike from would be very happy to also sell you some kit.
So I think it's just a new rule, right? New rule that if you're a new cyclist, your budget, when someone says, well, you're looking for a new bike, what's your budget? Your budget isn't the bike. Your budget is the whole thing, the whole gamut, right? Like the budget, like if someone says, I've got X dollars to spend, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever. And especially if you're an experienced cyclist, and that's what a lot of happens to us, and I'm sure happens to many of our listeners, where a friend or someone they know comes and say, hey, I'm looking to get into road cycling, gravel cycling, and I'm looking to buy a bike. And you say, well, what's your budget? I can help you sort of find something. We can look on Facebook Marketplace, or I can recommend some of the bikes around that price point. Once they tell you, you have to immediately say, is that your total budget or including kit? If they say, no, that's our total budget, you say, okay, now we're going to include kit. We're going to look at sort of the baseline for a decent kit, some decent shoes, and some, just some pedals. And then we'll extrapolate from there. Then here's your bike budget. Because you can't, if someone says they have 5,000, you can't say, I found this bike for $4,999, because then they're missing out. They're losing it out. And not only from a performance standpoint, which I don't actually care about, it's from an aesthetic standpoint, and it bothers my eyes when I see it.
Yeah, I agree. It is bothers me, and also confuses me. Like that guy on the titanium bike, I was like, what? I don't. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's a valid canal, but we invite you, the listeners, to let us know what you think, if you agree or disagree. But I don't know. I think it seems pretty fair.
That last comment, Warren, felt very like and subscribe thing. Just hit me in the comments with what you think, so we can get engagement. We're happy for you to do that, but we're not really looking for engagement or anything.
Well, we're not going to engage
So
back for like a week or more at a time, because
sometimes
I
I
log
check
into
it.
the Instagram maybe once every 2 weeks. So
Yeah, so just
don't
just
engage.
Wait. Yeah. All right, so I think that's what we got for the canal, and that's what we got for the first episode back. I love Jake, but I'm not going to count it. In like probably like a year, maybe, when the last time I was on. I don't know. It's been a while, but we'll try. We're definitely not getting back to bi-weekly, but we'll try to be a bit more consistent. At least get something out. Especially maybe we'll try and plan it around big events, world championships.
We do. On that note, we should mention we are doing another ride with Attacker later in August.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, if you're in the Toronto area.
Yeah, for Toronto only. You'll find the details on our Instagram. I think on Attacker as well. Social ride. Don't be a dick, that kind of thing. But yeah, we'll
August
20th.
We'll
August 20th, Wednesday. And perfect. We'll try to get episodes out. I will say to all the brands out there, nothing motivates us more than trying out some kit.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But
no, I'm not.
Really.
If someone says, "Hey, we'll send you some kit if you do an interview with us." If we already like you, like if we don't like it, we'll sort of push it off. Yeah. But if we already like you,
we were already interested in Givelo.
Yeah, so it works out. Yeah, I guess that's the thing. If someone asks us for an interview, it's like, we'll send you stuff, and we're like, well, we're not really recording right now. It's like, if they listen to this podcast, they know it's because we don't want their stuff, and we're like, we're not so into free stuff that we will like take stuff we don't want. Like, it still has to meet like something we were going to buy or may have bought some of anyways. And they're like, oh, awesome. Like, that's like kind of part of this like deal or whatever of the interview. But then some people have asked us, and we're like, we're kind of busy. We're not really recording at the moment. And it's really just like, we don't want this. I don't care if it's free.
Yeah. All right. That's it for this episode of
It's almost it. I have one quick more thing, just because Alex isn't here, and it's coming up in a couple of weeks. The Vuelta's in the Canal, as always.
Oh yes, of course. An homage to Alex Vuelta. The Vuelta in the Canal. Yeah, it'll be bad. Bingo is going to win it. The end.